we today are going to leave a heritage. What will it be? Well, the heritage that we leave our children must be defined by the kingdom of God. That should be the foundation of the heritage, the standards of God, the laws of God, the way of God, the rule of God, the love of God that will be manifested in His kingdom. That's what we must pass on to our children. We must pass on the heritage of God's way to our children. If we do not pass it on to them, then Satan's going to hand them his own vision. Satan will hand them his vision, and his vision is geared to the pulls of the world. It's short-sighted, and it's deadly. We have to work to hand on this vision to our children. We must not let our heritage be forgotten. We must cherish these holy days and not take them for granted, because the moment we start taking for granted, they begin to slip in importance. Psalm 44, verse 1, "We have heard with our ears, O God, our fathers have told us what deeds you did in their days, in days of old." And it goes on to go through the whole chapter about that. But he begins with, "We've heard it because our fathers have told us what you did." We cannot allow our children to just assume that, hey, keeping the feast has always been here. It's always been easy. It's always been the fun time of the year. Have the fun and enjoyment set the stage for sitting down and having receptive ears that say, now let me tell you. Instruct the children. Tell them what it has taken to bring us to this point. The sacrifices, the goals, everything that's part of their heritage. Help them to realize they are part of something bigger than they can imagine. Put their minds on it. It's one of the greatest gifts that you can give your children. Well, in conclusion, we owe our calling to God. What a miracle that He has done. We should thank Him regularly for it, and I know we do. But we also have a debt of gratitude that we owe when it comes to our calling for the work and the dedication and the perseverance of those that God called before us. It is written, "How beautiful are the feet of them that preach the gospel of peace, that bring glad tidings of good things." Well, the job of doing that was not easy. You read the stories of those who gave us a heritage of sacrifice and work and diligence, perseverance. And it wasn't only those who were called to preach, it was those who supported and were pillars. There were times in the history of the church when His people really needed a pioneering spirit because they were charting a path that others would follow. It wasn't easy, and some of them gave up and turned back, but others persevered, and we owe a lot to them. We owe it to God, and we thank Him, but we also owe thanks for those who responded to God. And I would simply like to take a moment to say that on behalf of all the rest of us who were of the succeeding generations who are here because of our fathers and our mothers, and our parents and grandparents and great-grandparents, maybe some cases brothers and sisters and aunts and uncles, but all of those who were the first generation to turn to God's way of life, and then who began to pass it down and to create the heritage that we enjoy today, and who had the foresight and the love to teach the rest of us and to allow God to use you that way. On behalf of all the rest of us, thank you. Some of you are here, and we appreciate it very deeply.
It's always been a pleasure to get to go to the feast every year, travel, meet new people, and get new sermons and new ideas, new message every time. We're just very thankful for that.
Pray thy kingdom come. That's what the feast pictures, and that's what we need to concentrate on all the time. kind of represents God's kingdom. And when it's going to come, and it teaches you the laws and about in order to get to be in God's kingdom, it means everything to me.
It's continually practicing to become like God, to think like God, to act like God. And at the Feast of Tabernacles, we're practicing what it's going to be like, or what we think it's going to be like, in the world tomorrow.
It gets family together and old friends, and I think that's important because that helps renew us too.
But when you think about the real reunion that we'll have, later on, all of these people that are now sleeping, waiting, we're going to get to see those people in the future.
It just reminds us each year of God's great plan of salvation, which we've learned more and more and more about as the years have gone by.
All of these people around the world, wherever they all are going to have the opportunity to one day understand, and the opportunity is there before them to one day become a part of the kingdom of God.
We look to the kingdom. We look to the return of Jesus Christ. We look to prophetic events that are coming. And we need to keep hold on that and to keep the church strong and unified.
Mr. Armstrong, I can see him till yet, standing there at the podium. He says, on the last great day, before we were to depart to go off to all of the different various and sundry places where we live, scattered all over the United States. And he said, there are two things I'd like for you to remember, brethren. And don't forget, determine now that you will be back here next year for the Feast of Tabernacles. Because it's only by keeping the feast of God that we understand and know the plan of God. And for us to be able to know what God has in store for us in the future, we must be kept in remembrance of His plan, which comes by keeping the holy days. So plan to be here next year. And the other thing is, brethren, you'll go back home. Most of you won't even have a local church to go to, and it'll be a long spell between now and the spring holy days next spring. But I would ask of you, please, don't let a root of bitterness get in you, because a root of bitterness can destroy your soul. So stay in a positive, trusting, obedient attitude, and be obedient to God, and be here next year.
May we never commit the sin of ingratitude by lacking a deep appreciation for those who paved the way before us. And may each succeeding generation pick up the mantle of responsibility to continue that heritage and pass it on to those who come next.